Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Buy Round Interview Show. Today we are joined by a man embedded in Queensland folklore, none other than Billy Moore.
G'day, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be here, mate. Excited, actually. I listened to your show. You do a good job, basically. Let's delve deep. Let's peel the banana back and see what we find.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, from the top,
Yeah.
when we think of Billy Moore, when people think of him, they see this incredibly angry person walking down the tunnel screaming Queenslander. Now, the person I know or the person I see on TV, mate, like such a nice guy. So who is Billy Moore? Is he the nice guy or is he the lunatic walking down the tunnel yelling Queenslander? Because I can't... To see that and then to meet you in person, it's like, sort of doesn't really make sense.
There's definitely two sides to the Billy Moore psyche. Billy Moore, the happy-go-lucky, enjoying life. I love life. I love every minute of life. I love it. And I love chatting to people. I love to learn. My mum taught me to learn. I ended up going to Sydney University, got a science degree, majored in physiology. So I love to learn. I want to know what you know that I don't. So that gives you a mindset that we are humble and you're listening. You love to listen. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. But then there's Billy Moore, the athlete. There's Billy Moore that has standards. There's Billy Moore that has certain pillars that he lives behind. And he builds his house on rock, and those pillars are honesty, loyalty, devotion, and you're all chips in. So I'm all chips in rugby league. My two greatest sides, the North Sydney Bears and Queensland. So when I was 9, I saw the first State of Origin game on the lounge room floor in 1980. Arthur Beetson takes the field. One of my first memories of TV anyway, 1980. And I said to my mum and dad, I'm going to play Origin. And they went, oh, yes, son. Of course you will, son. Well, I got to live that dream. And
Was it as profound as that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to play Origin.
yeah. And we talk about a few sliding door moments later on, which unfolded that dream and made it take place. But what you saw coming down the tunnel in 1995 was Billy Moore absolute. There is nothing left in the tank. When I'm in, I'm fully in. And that passionate call, that was the first time they'd ever put a camera in a sports tunnel in Australia. Never been there before. So people say, oh, did you know it was there? No one knew it was there because it'd never been there before in any sport at any time. It happened to be there. And about 2 minutes prior, I had all my teammates in the sheds. I whipped them into a frenzy. We were all screaming Queenslander.
Because it was half time, wasn't it?
Before the game.
Oh, that was before the game?
Before the game. So to frame it up, Gary Larson looks at me 2 minutes before the game, and you've been in this position. I get a tingle now. It's called the eye of the storm. It's the moment when everyone leaves the room, all trainers, all coaches, all medical staff, and all that's left is the players. And I'm looking at you, and you're looking at me. It's the most beautiful moment that you've experienced, I've experienced. It's called a moment of honesty. There is nowhere to hide. You're going to go play a brutal game, and you have to deliver. All the things you said you're going to do, you're going to have to do them. And I'll know if you don't. And I'll know instantly. And that moment of clarity, it's honesty, it's purity. I love it. So, 1995, Super League war rages. New South Wales and Queensland can't pick players aligned into Super League. For Queensland, it's devastating. We've got a small batch to pick from, but we can't pick Broncos, Canberra and Canterbury players. So there's no Alan Langer, there's no Steve Wallace, there's no Kevin Wallace, there's no Steve Renouf. Those players can't play. We found 9 rookies to fill the void. And what 9 rookies they were. We had only one Australian player in our team for game 1. This is game 1, Sydney Football Stadium, and that was Dale Shearer. But he hadn't played for Queensland, for Australia for 5 years. New South Wales, on the other side of the corridor, had 12 current internationals that went on the 1994 Kangaroo Tour. Andrew Johns, Matty Johns, Paul Harrigan, Jeff Tuvey, superstars, Brad Fittler. They're all over there. So we knew we had our backs to the wall, but we were fine with that. And Gary Larson, in that moment of clarity, as his emotions bubble up, he goes, Billy, tell these blokes about Queenslander. Tell them what Queenslander means to you. And I said, I can tell you what it means to me. I was told by the late, great Peter Jackson when I played Origin at 21, the first camp, the first day, the first moment, he said, Billy, he said, you're going to love Origin. And I said, why? He goes, mate, you're made for this because it's about Queenslander. He said, what Queenslander means? It's a word. You've heard it. I said, yeah, it means this. It means three things. It means help your mate. It means find a solution and no fucking excuses. Queenslanders don't make an excuse. Don't lose. There's no such thing as a glorious loss for a Queenslander. You're putting lipstick on a pig. Don't lose. I went, I'm in. So what you saw come down that tunnel was absolute buy-in from Billy Moore. It has not changed. Has not changed from a young boy to now. I love it. Whenever I watch Origin, I'm full buy-in. I'm there. I wish I could still play. I wish Father Time hadn't robbed me from the ability to play. I wanted to play. I was never good, but geez, I bought in. That's where it come from. So Billy Moore, what you saw is absolute passion. There's that side to Billy Moore, and it's a component of it, but there's so much more, which is fantastic, and I love it. And that's the one you do see, unless you poke the bear.
Is it a switch or is it a dial?
That's a great question. It is a dial, but there is the supercharged switch that does get flipped.
Oh, you've got both. You've got both in town. You've got the just ramp it up a little bit. Then you've got the supercharged.
Yeah. If you have to go, I'll go.
How often does it come out?
Not often. As you get older, less and less. As I was saying, you don't have as much lead in the pencil anymore, but it's still there. And I suppose the physical side of it drops away, but the mental one doesn't fade because we all think we're still 21, don't we? You know, we look in the mirror and you go, "Oh, I still look okay.
I've still got it.
Still got it." So
it never left. Oh.
Yeah, but look, it's a great thing. I look back on my life to have had the opportunity to live my dream, and a vast chunk of that dream was the Maroons, to play for Queensland.
Well, we were talking. We were sharing a taxi to the airport the other week when we finished at Fox, and we were speaking about this iconic moment from almost 30 years ago.
Exactly.
That you're still known for today. There's not many people in any walk of life that just get known for a particular moment. There are creative people, people that create masterpieces, but normally they're built over time. But this one particular moment from almost 30 years ago, you will be forever known for. Like, how do you, honestly, like, how do you view that when you sit and think with that thought?
That's a really good question. I imagine a lot of people look at it and think, yeah, you know, you're known for that and it's giving you this status. I'm so humbled. I don't own it. It's not mine. I'm proud to be the voice, especially, and the face of it. I'm just the custodian that brought it to the public arena accidentally because of the cameras. It wasn't staged. So what you saw was raw passion. You saw it in its rawness, and that's what resonates with people. So I'm respectful for it, honoured by it. I know it's going to be around a lot longer than when I'm past. It'll still be there. As long as there's Origin, as long as there is Queensland, there'll always be Queenslander. It's the biggest brand north of the Tweed. And I know New South Wales people go wank, wank, but it is what it is. And my suggestion to them is just be humbly respectful that we've got it. Don't try and imitate it. Do your own thing. Because it's our tribal call, and when I walk in and around Sydney, people still go, "You're not Billy Moore, the North Sydney Bears player." They go, "You're the Queenslander fella," because every year they roll that footage out. So I'll be humility aside, I was good, not great. My popularity, my standing in the game is far higher than it should be based on my playing ability. I play with passion, but I didn't have the skill. I'd get you with fatigue, which unfortunately takes 79 minutes of pain, but I'd get you there. But I wasn't fast enough, strong enough. I didn't have the ball skills, but I knew I'd get you with fatigue. So I'm just humbly respectful that status that I've got also almost decoupled from my playing ability, and because of, I suppose, the honesty and the raw nature of that call and what it means, and the way it's been wrapped around the greatest sporting contest of the last 40 years. For delivering a close result and entertainment factor, there's nothing on this planet, in my humble opinion, that has delivered anything like it. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, tennis or soccer or cricket, motor racing, horse. This thing, every year, 3 games for 4 decades, bang, it's on, and it's growing, and it's going to get bigger. So yeah, I sit back and have a quiet think about it, enjoy my cup of green tea in the rocking chair with a pipe, and go, yes, it was fun.
Mate, it's funny you speak about just how raw it was, and I think that's the beauty of sport. You know, we tried to manufacture TV programs with reality TV. There's no better reality TV than sport. There's no better scripts than what sport provides society. And even, I guess, it's a very, well, I don't know if there's another situation in world sport where a interstate game is bigger than a international game, which our state of origin has become that. But obviously there is a rivalry between the state of Queensland and New South Wales, and there's a rivalry as well between the state of New South Wales and, say, Victoria. But, you know, it's sort of petty arguments about which state is better. And, you know, you could, the argument between Queensland and New South Wales, like that argument almost gets a settler through the vehicle of rugby league every single year. So, like, sport, it's more than 3 games.
Yeah, well, it does. Well, Queensland seceded from the colony of New South Wales. We formed our own colony on the 6th of June, 1859. I'm partitioning for a public holiday in Queensland to be celebrated on that day because we don't acknowledge it. But what actually happens, the mindset, you mentioned about Victoria and New South Wales, Sydney, Melbourne, it's big brother, big brother. This is the difference. This is the psyche. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. I know what little brothers do. Little brother just wants to beat big brother. Big brother, he's happy to beat little brother, but he's got other things on his plate. Little brother doesn't care. There's only one thing he wants, is to beat big brother. New South Wales is big brother to us. Queensland want every year to showcase big brother. Hey, we got you. And the forum that we use, where it resonates most, is State of Origin. It's formed in 1980 for Game 1. Game 2 is 1981. They only played a game each year, and 82 was the first 3-game series. This is the fuel that burns Origin. Another tingle. 1959 was the last time Queensland won interstate series until 1982. For 23 straight years, Queensland got beaten. So my father, my uncles, and people of that generation, they knew nothing but getting beat by New South Wales. But because New South Wales was where the money was, all the Queensland players would come down and play for New South Wales. So take 1980, for example. They had a 3-game series in 1980. New South Wales won 3-0. Then 6 players from the New South Wales side went and played for Queensland in the first State of Origin series, and Queensland won that game. 1981, 3-game series. New South Wales won it again, but when the Queenslanders came back home, we won that game, and that's what Origin was formed around. So the fires of Origin were for a quarter of a century getting beaten. That burns. That's where the fuel is. New South Wales has always been big brother and didn't quite get it, didn't need to get it. Now they do, because Queensland won 12 of 13, and then they've had a little bit more, New South Wales come back with a bit of success. Now you can just sense the Queensland machine is rolling again. New South Wales, when you lose, you pay attention a lot more and respect the challenge. I just reckon New South Wales are going to respect the challenge a lot more in the next couple of years, because I can just see the Queensland depth, the juggernaut that's rolling there under Billy Slater won't be stopping anytime soon.
You know, it's funny you mention that. I obviously, I was aware that it was you represented the state where you played for such a long time, but probably never really understood the impact of that. And obviously for me, you know, it makes sense. You play where you're born, or you play where you want to play, or you feel like you represent
where you belong. Yeah, play.
I wonder what would have happened had it have originated like that. You know, like it is now. Whether or not it would have the same impact that it does, and arguably the same impact of Queensland. If Origin began where instead of
having the interstate series concept before it, that's really true. I would say this, that the psyche though of the little brother, big brother, because Queensland seceded from New South Wales, and it was almost always like, well, we're trying to catch up because we're the smaller state. Brisbane was always known as a country town, you know, where Sydney was the spot. So Queensland's always been, as I said, because I'm the youngest of 4 boys, it's always been the little brother psyche. So I think there would always have been a place for it. But the fuel that I talked about for 23 state series getting defeated, you know, that's a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Because that was multi-generational. And then once you get multi-generational stories, it passes on so much easier than that one event, you know, like a short-term thing. So I just know that I grew up, and my dad, who was a very unemotional man, in 1980, I remember him watching Arthur Beetson run on the field, and I went, oh, I've never seen that before. I've never seen emotion like that in my father.
Oh, wow, just from watching?
Because that was the first time and only time Arthur played for Queensland. He was born in Roma, went and played for Redcliffe, came down and become this juggernaut. The first Indigenous captain of any Australian sporting team, of any sporting team. Came in immortal. But, you know, he was this legend, which I didn't know at 9. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But all I realised was the connection between my dad, who never showed any emotion, and what I watched when he came on the field. I went, wow, that's something special there.
It could have been so different for you as well, couldn't it? If your parents had bought a house on the other side of the railway in the small town.
Little town of Wallangarry, yeah. It's, well, you know, for me too, that's what's so palatable, is I grew up in a border town. So there was when I was a kid, there was actually border gates. So you to drive across the border, you used to have to stop, open up your boot, and they'd check to see what you were carrying across the state border.
Oh, really?
That happened until I was about 12, 13.
What were they looking for?
Usually fruit and vegetables, carrying diseases across the border. And like cattle and livestock had to stop, and they had to be dipped to make sure you didn't transmit diseases across the border.
What was in Queensland that they didn't want it in New South Wales, or vice versa?
I think New South Wales didn't want the Queensland victories and passion that we have. I don't know. Yeah, you have to get obviously someone from an agricultural background, but just obviously moving fruit and vegetables and pestilence and obviously bacteria maybe. But yeah, so
did they try and stop the wind? Like, what sort of a strategy is that? You just, I'd
say be any sort of disease that was not airborne would be an issue,
yes.
but it'd be more touch.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So, but you imagine you've grown up in a town where you had that's them, and to describe it to you.
Was it the same the other way in terms of if you were driving from New South Wales into Queensland?
No, they'd come in.
They'd just let you go in.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us go that way. So
yeah, a bit
discrimination.
Like it's a bit like the Mexico United States border. It's easy to go one way, not so easy to come the other.
So this town was an amazing place to grow up in. When I was young, it was 800 people because they had a 600 person meatworks, which shut down when I was about 7 or 8, which devastated the town. So I grew up and it was 400 people. And this town is on the border, and through the middle of the town runs a train line. And New South Wales and Queensland have different sized train tracks, which sounds it's absolutely brain dead. But that's the way it was. They couldn't agree on the size of the width of the train tracks and the type of track. So when cargo was moving from Brisbane to Sydney or vice versa, they used to have to get to Wallangarra, and there's this massive 200-metre long train station, which doesn't befit the town because the town's so small, but all goods had to be transshipped from one train track line to another. There was two different trains because the train couldn't go on both with gauges. So it was 100 on one side. Jennings, New South Wales side, had their own school and their own pub, which served Tui's New. Ours was Wallangarra, the Wallangarra Hotel, sold Forex only, and Wallangarra Primary School, and we never mixed. You didn't go to Jennings. They didn't come to us.
Really?
Didn't mix.
Did you know anyone from that
Oh,
side
you
of
knew
town?
of them.
You
You
just
didn't worry about them. You know, you just didn't go to my school. Didn't need to worry about you. And then the only time you'd mix is on New Year's Eve because there was daylight saving. So we'd get 2 New Year's Eves. So we'd go over to their pub and have, it was the only time you'd go to their pub, you'd go there, see how you went, no good, you walk 100 metres across the train track, have a crack at the Wallangarra Hotel. That's honestly the only time I mixed with them.
Jeez, I thought like the Protestants and Catholics were
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
No, we don't mix with them.
No.
Like, yeah.
So you can see now the guy that comes down the corridor onto the field, screaming Queenslander, you now can get a little bit more of the mindset of the little brother philosophy, the Wallangarra border gate scenario. It was a very palatable thing for me. Yeah.
But you born in New South Wales, though.
That's a great question, Jimmy. You've done some good research there. Wallangarra, this town I
Is
described.
that something you're trying to move on from?
Well, no, I'm happy. I'll explain it. I won't labour on it, but I'll explain it. Wallangarra doesn't have a hospital. It's too small. So the nearest hospital was 18 kilometres south in enemy territory. So 7th of May 1971, I was born in Tenterfield Base Hospital, but she assured me, and to all your wonderful listeners, she assured me I didn't take a breath till I was brought back across the border. So I just had to hold my breath. As soon as I come out of the womb. I was born in Tenterfield, New South Wales. And I played a bit of footy there. Great people. Tenterfield Tigers. They played a huge part in Billy Moore becoming who he was. But I can assure you, everyone in Tenterfield will tell you that Billy Moore was the Queensland supporter, and I had the Wally Lewis jersey. I killed it, actually. I used to run the book, take bets, because Queensland won 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. I was killing it. So I'm now 84. I think I was 14. 85, New South Wales been their first series under Steve Mortimer. My mum had to pay the debts. I actually had too many bets. I couldn't cover them all.
Oh, really?
So I didn't expect to lose. I'd never lost. No one told me you had to lose.
Oh, shit.
I've got that story, yeah.
Speaking to you, it appears it means more to Queenslanders, maybe to the people, not so much. Well, the players, I think, I've spoken to players from both sides and they talk about just how much it means to them. But maybe for the people, maybe it's a people thing. Is that a fair reflection?
Yeah, it is. Origin's the biggest days in Queensland. I've got a restaurant in Mooloolaba, or Jello's, best pizzas in the world. It's our quietest day of the year. No one comes out Origin night.
Do you not get takeaways?
They do. They're home early. So if you're sitting in my restaurant on Origin night, you're from Victoria. So it just doesn't happen. So we bank on it. You know, we write in the book State of Origin night, so we just know we
ordering less.
We ordering less. We down the staffing levels. Just don't need them because no one's coming out. But yeah, it means so much to the punter, to the average person in Queensland, because of this reason. Because Arthur Beats and that initial Origin teams made us feel so proud because we won. And the people saw how much it meant to Arthur, Wally, Chris Close, and those initial guys, the ones who were the breakers of the ice. You know, and the ones who go first always, I think, need to have special praise, because when you come along behind, you're going in the footsteps that have been laid by someone else. That's what I'm making. Whenever you talk about the first, it needs to be acknowledged as being something special, because you're walking where no one's walked before. You're breaking ice that's never been broken before. So the public saw how much it meant to them. So then it made them feel even prouder. And then the next generations of players could see how much it meant to the people, and the former players tell them stories. So it's a feeding forward loop, which it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger because there's actually sincerity, honesty, and we do care, and it does make us feel good. It does make us feel special, and it is as I go back to my original point, it's when little brother goes, "Gotcha."
I've just started to sort of digest that little brother mentality, and it's sort of all starting to make a little bit of sense now. You spoke about Queensland dominating the early 80s.
Yep.
But around your time, New South Wales, very dominant.
It flicked. Yeah.
It flicked, and I remember, or I've read stories of they were saying they thought Origin may be over, but the boys of '95 with the backs against the wall, with no Broncos players, no Bulldogs or Canberra Raiders players, a rookie coach. Was it teetering on the edge of this could be extinct?
That's a really good point, and I'll make this. I've never really thought about it, but now it's hit me like a thunderbolt. The people who were saying Origin was teetering on the edge and was going to die were all New South Wales. There was not one Queenslander who thought that.
Okay.
It honestly did not. It came from the power base of the New South Wales media, who get carried away, and they like to go to the extremes because they want to have control, and they think, well, we could kill this concept off if we wanted to, even though they wouldn't. But they thought that it made sense that if you lose that many times, that it would fade away. Well, we'd lost 23 years in a row, pre-Origin. The fact we lost 3 in a row, 92, 3, 4, which I played in all those, it didn't make any difference to Queensland, Queensland players, the Queensland public. Didn't make a difference at all. So 1995 was incredibly special because, as we alluded to, how it was perceived on paper to be such an underdog. And in theory, it should have been.
Well, it was. You were a huge underdog.
I think the longest ever odds. To even win a game, we won 3-0. You got to remember too. Look at it from the coaching perspective.
Fatty Vaughton.
You had Phil Gould, the most successful coach in Origin history, and he knew what he was doing, up against Fatty Vaughton, who'd never coached. I think he might have done a junior game somewhere once, like a game. So he'd never coached. There's so many mythical stories about it, but the core was Fatty had a great offsider in Chris Close. Now, I talk about passionate Queenslanders, and I'm one of them. And then Jacko, the late great Peter Jackson, is a level above me. And then you go to the pinnacle of passion for Queensland, Chris Close sits at that level. He was the manager. And I just remember the first meeting we had in the same room that I'd been in for 4 years at the Travel Lodge in Brisbane on the 6th floor. And I'm looking around the room, and there's 9 rookies. There's a rookie coach, a rookie captain. All the players who weren't there, which you're thinking, okay, these guys, they'll do the job, we'll do the job. And then Fatty turns to Chris Close and he asks him to talk about the passion for Queensland and what it means to him. He starts crying. He started crying. And I went, shit. You could just see all the rookies are just going, wow, because this guy's 140 kilos. He got man of the match in the first two State of Origins. Was fearless. He could have beat any of us in a fight in that room then, because he was such a strong, powerful character. But he broke down and started sobbing about how much Queensland meant to him. That was the moment we were never going to lose. That team just went glued together. And we were written off. We were getting bagged because of all the players we didn't have. We didn't care who we didn't have. We cared about who we did have. But we didn't have the superstars. And it was during the Super League War, so the media was appetite had grown for the product and were talking more about it, because you had two media arms, the News Corp side, and you had obviously the ARL side, which is the Channel 9 and the Packer Group. So they were wanting stories and ripping into each other, and a couple of and I'll say it too, a couple of the Queensland people in the media turned on us.
Oh, really?
They did. They turned on us. I remember Fatty and Chris Close talked about it during that first camp. And they'll go quiet and they say they didn't, but I know we know they did. But they brought us together even more. So over the course of that series, we only had one injury. So we had 18 players. I look back on it, it's the greatest example I have ever had of a champion team beats a team of champions. And the reason I say that, we won that series 3-0. Any idea what happened in the following year in 1996? You wouldn't know because no one talks about it. We don't talk about it. New South Wales won 3-0. We brought back all our champions. We lost 3-0. That is, over those two series, is the greatest example of a champion team and a team of champions. Give me the champion team. Give me the team that believes in each other.
Yeah, wow.
It's an amazing thing that no one ever talks about, that 95, 96. We want to forget 96, we don't talk about it. But that 95 side was special. I look back on it and we, whenever we see each other, our faces light up. It doesn't matter who it is. And the champions of that series, Craig Teeve and Terry Cook, you might know who they are, but they played for Queensland in that series. They come off the bench, both of them. Terry Cook probably could have nearly got player of the series. They never played for Queensland again. They played 3 games and they've had 3 wins. And they go down in my book as the true example of Queenslander. They took their chance and they made the most of it. And I look back proud to actually to be associated with those guys, having experienced that little snippet, and they took it and they ran with it and they made the most of it.
And Fatty Vaughton, the rookie coach, was there much X's and O's, or he just drove into the emotion?
Mate, there was more to him than met the eye, because he obviously had been under the coaching experience of Bob Fulton, and so Bob will go down as one of the great coaches. So Fatty was well schooled, and he had been under Wayne Bennett. So Fatty's a little bit like you and me. I think there's more to him than meets the eye. He likes to learn.
Yeah,
he's an absorber, Fatty. He absorbs things, and he's humble, and he understands his position. And which, by having that balance of wanting to be a learner and being very aware of your strengths and weaknesses, makes you even a better learner, because you're not lying to yourself. You know, you can't. If you build your house on sand, it'll eventually crumble. You got to build it on rocks. You got to be honest, right? So Fatty knew how good he was and what he was good at, what he wasn't good at. He leaned on Chris Close a lot. He leaned on some of the senior players in the group. But yeah, Fatty Vaughton could coach. I had him for 3 years, and I will go down and say he was the best Origin coach I had. I didn't have Wayne Bennett, but Fatty will never be remembered really as a coach, but he should be proud of what he did with that team.
Yeah, I guess some things. I guess we talk about the personality of you, the two sides. I guess for a lot of people there are multiple sides, and the one that stands out is the larrikin within the media, I guess. And probably the people think, how can that person coach a team that's down on its knees and backs against the wall, and the little brother, and all those aspects that went into that win.
I think probably no one will know, but because you had a coach like that, had a clean slate, might have made it easier, because he didn't try to overcoach, because he probably had to learn himself how to coach it, and he really relied on, organically the way it would grow. But there were some fundamentals, non-negotiables, like the Queenslander. We are not going to lose. Yeah, that doesn't happen. We have to find a solution, because we're wearing the maroon jumper. You find a solution, otherwise get off the pot, and help your mate. So those 3 things that I've talked about as being the core of what the Queenslander means. people might laugh it off. Well, it's not a laughing matter. Those three things are amazing pillars to have what you build your house around.
Absolutely.
And Fatty got that. And, you know, I think we might have one tap play, one set move. That was about it. But, look, I look back and think of that team and what actually happened, the rookies, our back three, Robbie A. Davis, Brett Dallas, Matt Singh, combined number of games of 0. So the two wingers and the fullback, right? All three went on to be stars. They all played for Australia. But they were in 1995, in middle of May, they were just NRL players.
Yeah. There was a certain level of brutality in that era. And you could argue more was let go during the State of Origin series. Did you approach the game differently to a regular club game?
You did. You knew that it was going to be intense, obviously, like Origin is, but you just knew subtle rule differences. You know, there were going to be some leeway. That was the era when you could fight. And we had an all-in brawl, and it was probably one of the last. 2 years later we had Cattle Dog, 97. So this was 1995.
Was that the infamous one where I think it was almost pre-planned? The first scrum, it was going to go off.
Yeah. So what happened there was I screamed Queenslander in 1995, game 1 coming down the tunnel. We win that game 2-0. Never happened again. No try scored. We defended. It was amazing. Game 2, 3 weeks later, it was in Melbourne, and like happens, today, two teams have virtual simultaneous meetings, their respective hotels. They go to the ground and do battle. New South Wales had their meeting before us, and Phil Gould came in and gave this speech, powerful, succinct speech about the way that New South Wales should be embarrassed. The players were embarrassed. Queensland's a shit side, basically, and you got beaten by this shit team. Yeah, and you got embarrassed because it was in front of your fans, your family, in your house. So tonight, we are going to deliver. And he said, if someone says Queensland tonight, I want you to punch them. That was the tactics.
Is that confirmed from New South Wales camp, or is this just a rumour to ignite you guys?
Well, at this point, we didn't know anything about this. And then Fatty's come in, and one of his friends was supposedly the water runner for New South Wales, has relayed the story to him that if you say Queensland, you're going to get punched. So hands up. He walks in and said, look, guys, I've just found the tactics of New South Wales is not pretty. If you say Queenslander tonight, you're going to get punched. Who's going to say it? Boom, 17 hands go straight up. No word of a lie. So we don't know whether it's fictitious or not, but we know what they're thinking, but they don't know we think it. Yeah. We know it, which is scary for rugby league blokes.
Don't overthink it.
So 5 minutes into the match, Adrian Lamb finds touch, the great Queenslander from Port Moresby, because we know Port Moresby's part of Queensland. So is Tenterfield, so is Fiji, so is New Zealand. It's all Queensland. So we go to the scrum, and as we go into the scrum, our front row, Tony Hearn and Gavin Allen go, is it on? Is it on? Yeah, it's on. It's on. So it's on. So we pack in the scrum and they go, Queenslander, and they've come up with the guns loaded. And the New South Wales packs come up, and it was like this pregnant pause where they've gone, Queenslander. What's something about Queenslander? Oh, the fight. So it's erupted. And everyone got involved. The only two that get involved were Gary Larson and Greg Formo because they married sisters. So they were brother-in-laws. They couldn't fight. they backed off. So I'm at the back of the scrum because on lock I was the smallest of the forwards, and I'm at the back and I've come around and there's no one to fight. He's busy and he's busy. Is there anyone else left? And all of a sudden David Barnhill comes around, and Barney's got a crushed larynx, and he's a good bloke. He goes, mate, what do you reckon? I said, sweet. He goes, righto, let's dance. So we had this all in blue. I threw, 25 punches. They all missed. It was embarrassing. And what's the real embarrassing thing is I had boxed, at that stage I was boxing with the great Johnny Lewis at Newtown Police Boys Club. So what made me go from average to good as a player was because I became super fit. So I used to do 18 3-minute rounds.
And you didn't land any punches.
Missed them all.
Oh,
Johnny hasn't really
You'd be
spoken
the
to me since.
laughing stock at the boxing club for that, wouldn't you?
Johnny was embarrassed. He said, "Oh, mate, you're swinging like a rusty gate."
Remember your footwork.
What were you thinking? I just got in a fit of rage. That was that switch one. The switch got flicked. When I went, right, let's dance, let's go. So I look back on that fight now, and as I said, you'll never see that again, the fighting, but lives in infamy. And then that series, we win game 3 at Lang Park, we called it, as it was called then, Suncorp Stadium today. Sold out. We were on the field for about...
Even though you're up 2-0?
Up 2-0, yeah.
Still so
It doesn't matter.
Wow.
It won't matter. If Queensland lost for 20 years, it wouldn't matter. It would still sell out. They wouldn't care. Anyway, we finished the game and we were on the field for an hour and a half celebrating. And I reckon 30,000 people stayed there. No one left. No one got kicked out.
That's
and
brilliant.
We had this party on the field. Look, it was the greatest 8 weeks of my life. It'll never... That's Everest. I'm looking for another Everest. I understand that. But I look back now and you just get this warm glow from that series.
The absolute pinnacle, right?
Absolute pinnacle of delivering a result in an underdog position on belief and turning belief into a process. You know, belief's great, but you've actually still got to go and do it. And as I touched on those couple of blokes, Craig Teeve and Terry Cook, I saw them rise as men, and they went from being just making the NRL to win an Origin up against, Andrew Johns is an immortal. Brad Fittler will be I think he might be in the Hall of Famer now. There was like half a dozen Hall of Famers, and these guys lifted for that small period of time. But that's what you love about life, is that you can shine when everything works and you believe and you put the hard work in, magic happens.
Yeah, if things are just predictable and go the way they're supposed to go, life would be pretty boring and too predictable. And the best thing about sport is its unpredictable nature and unpredictability. You spoke about a blue in 2 in 97 as well. Was there a big one? Was that the cattle dog call?
Cattle dog, yeah. Tommy took over, the great Tommy Rodongas, God rest his soul. So he wanted to stamp his authority, and he was filthy about the Queenslander call and the fight at the MCG, which didn't look like New South Wales did that well. So yeah, he had his call called cattle dog, which we didn't know what it was, and they called that in the scrum. And unfortunately for Joey, he was hooker, and on the other side was Jimmy Goddard, who was from Mount Isa, and a pugilist. Now, a pugilist from Mount Isa, you're going to be pretty good. And he was pretty good. And Joey tells a ripping story. I don't know if you've heard it. He got 40 stitches, I think.
Did he?
Internal and external. But he was heavily concussed, and he reckons he woke up in the sheds and he thought he was in an RSL because all he could smell was beer and cigarettes. And as he's woken up, there's Tommy Rodongas slung over the top of him going, "Get up, get back out there. You're all right. Don't be a weak dog." So that was the Tommy Rodongas way. And again, they don't make people like Tommy Rodongas anymore.
No. You know, when I watch State of Origin, it's often it often uses foul play from that era to advertise itself to the modern day. Do you think it should?
No, and it'll stop. It'll stop. It's like our awareness of commercials that advertise alcohol or cigarettes, and knowledge is power, and behavioural patterns get reinforced by doing things like that. So yeah, that'll stop.
Like we advertise State of Origin on the brutality and a lot of foul play, where we should really advertise it on the skill, the toughness, and big hits, but legal big hits, and maybe not. The fights that used to happen, maybe they should be. I don't know how you would like showcase them because they are interesting.
Well, I think what you'll
part
find
of the story, but not to actually advertise the game or promote the game. Rather,
the next generation It'll move off into the myth status.
Yeah.
And that's where it should be. Because it can't happen again. It won't happen again. I'll say this. My brother doesn't watch the game anymore because he thinks without the foul play, the toughness is gone, doesn't like watching it. Johnny Lewis, that period of 4 years was great for me. One of the greatest men I've ever met in my life, Johnny Lewis. But he taught me this one thing. Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
It does.
As you
it's
know.
a good saying.
And when you look at the game of rugby league at the highest level, NRL, and then Origin's next level above, anyone that thinks that that's soft because I'm not allowed to head high or shoulder charge or spear tackle, punch, you're wrong.
Yeah.
The game is harder than it's ever been. And if you don't believe it, just go out there and run for a minute at the pace these guys do and then you get hit legally by a 115 kilo trained athlete, you'll soon change your view on that.
Yeah, the level of endurance required is what should be celebrated, not the level of foul play that someone's willing to push.
So you're not, the game's no softer because you've removed that.
No.
The game's better because what you actually want is entertainment.
Well, it becomes more of a game of skill and a game of endurance as opposed to a game of illegal tactics and arguably thuggery. So,
and don't you think too, the way the game goes, taking out that sort of component, the thuggery, but having a game based around fatigue, every body shape and style has a chance to reign. You know, the big guys rule for the first 15, and then it comes down to skill, and then it comes down to speed. At the back end, because of the way the interchange works, you're going to have the endurance players like yourself or me that would stay on and find a way to just keep going because we can't come off because there's no more subs left. You have to just battle out. I like the way that the entertainment value of our game is allowing all body shapes and types to shine over the course of a game.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, you are known for that amazing Queenslander chant and everything that came with that, and I could speak to you much longer about that, but we've also had a couple of conversations around the North Sydney Bears, where you played out your entire professional career.
Yep.
What was it about the Bears? The Broncos wouldn't have been in.
They were.
They were. Yeah. But you just decided to come to Sydney.
That's a great question.
It must have been, it's the first part of this interview. You love Queensland.
Yep.
Moving to Sydney.
My mother was the dominant figure in my life when I was young. So when I was 17 and a half, I had never played rep football. I went all the way through and played in the Australian final. And I'd never played rep football before. And I got man of the match. And that day in the Australian final, there was 34 kids that played, or 34 young men. 33 were contracted. I got the man of the match, no contract. When I left the field, inside an hour, I got an offer from Penrith Panthers, Parramatta Eels, Brisbane Broncos, and the mighty North Sydney Bears. And my mum took over control and said, "No worries, thank you very much." Anyway, she goes, "You're going to North Sydney."
Why?
Because that's a real good question. I said the same thing 2 years later. She goes, "Why? Why did I come to North?" She said, "Well, Brisbane, Parramatta, and Penrith are the three largest junior bases of rugby league in the world, then and still are now. They have so many people to pick from." She said, "They've got 20 Billy Moores, Norths have one." She didn't know whether I was going to be good enough or not, so she worked on the theory, I've got to buy him enough time to go into the training regimes, to build himself up, to give himself the best chance to be who he could be. It just happened that my trajectory just kept going. I played first grade, second week in the very first year. So I played first grade before I was 18. Round 2, 1989. That's a whole different story. Remember to come back to that story. It was Penrith at Penrith Park. I was 17 years, 10 months.
Well, just tell us now. Let's go.
Well, 7 years, 10 months. So round 1, I played under 21s at 17 against Balmain, North Sydney Oval. They sat me on the bench for reserve grade. I was nervous. I'm from reserve grade. I used to have headgear and shoulder pads. Didn't use me. I didn't care. I'm thinking, I'm a reserve grader now. Next week, Penrith Park. The 89 Penrith team was a good one.
Yes.
All those superstars, Geyer, Cartwright, Izzard, Alexander, Peter Kelly, Vandervoort, superstars.
Royce
Simmons was there, you know. I'm on the bench. So I played 21s. We win. Bears was unusual, but we had a good side. Dave Fairleigh and those sort of guys were in that team. Then they sit me on the bench for reserve grade. I don't get on. I don't care. I'm a reserve grader. Game 2, how you go? Then I'll leave the bench and Frank Stanton, the former Australian coach, is the Bears coach. He goes, I want you on the bench for first grade, son. I went, oh, okay. I'm going, wow.
Because that was back in the day where all 3 grades would play on the same day, correct,
Yes.
against the same opposition.
Yes.
So it would normally be one of the best reserve graders would go onto the bench
Yes.
for the first team because you wanted to get your minutes in.
Yeah, and you'd only, I think in 89, it evolved, there was, you had to have played an earlier game to sit on the bench at one stage. Then they had 2 benchies, fresh benchies, and then the other 2 had to be a player from a former game.
Yeah.
So I can't remember that when that changed over. Anyway, I'm sitting on the bench for first grade. And
By yourself?
no, there's other players there.
Yeah.
But the 89 Bears side sucked. They're down by 30 points. 5 minutes to go. I'm thinking, they're not going to put me on. G'day, ladies. I'm a first grader. I don't care if I'm playing. I'm sitting on the bench for first grade. Then all of a sudden it comes down to the wire and our manager, Billy Teasdale, turns and he starts laughing. He goes, Billy, you're going on, son. You're making your debut right now. And I went, right. Switch, flicked. I'm on. Headgear. I've charged onto the field just as we got a penalty. We found touch. Our hooker and captain, Tony Ray from Bundaberg, great bloke. I run past him. I said, his nickname's Sniffer. I said, Sniffer, I'll take it up off the tap. He said, what? I said, I'll take it up off the tap. He goes, are you sure? I said, shut up and give me the ball. He said, righto, big boy, come and get it. So I just backed up and I ran straight onto it. I weighed 80 kilos. I ran straight at Mark Geyer, 115 kilos. Peter Kelly, 120 kilos. I was the 8th youngest person to ever take a footy field at NRL level that day. And I still hold the record for the shortest ever debut. They knocked me out cold.
Oh, did they?
I lasted 8 seconds. They carried me off the field in a stretcher and I wake up in the sheds. They reckon, mate, they just hit me high. And, mate, they must have been sitting there going, do you think this young kid's going to run straight at me? I think he might be. Well, let's see how this plays out. So, yeah, I ran onto the ball, got tackled, knocked out, woke up in the sheds. That was my debut.
Oh, my God.
So I played, then they dropped me back into reserve grade. So I played 8 more games of reserve grade. Then I stepped up and played a few more games of first grade after my 18th birthday. One of those was against Manly at North Sydney Oval. I just turned 18 and, mate, the Manly North rivalry was amazing. Packed house. Didn't matter if it was last v second last. North Manly, you packed the house. And then I dropped back and played in the reserve grade grand final. We won North's first premiership in 89, their first senior premiership in 30 years. So that was year 1 for Billy Moore.
When we talk about North Sydney Bears, there's a very proud history there. They seem to be linked with they get spoken about whenever the word expansion is mentioned. You know, there's probably a younger demographic out there that probably don't really understand what the North Sydney Bears are all about. Maybe perhaps how South Sydney used to feel when they were out the comp. Why is it important that North Sydney Bears are still around?
The Bears are a foundation club, 116 years of history. We've been out for 25 years. It's a quarter of a century. There's 200,000 of me, Bears fans
200,000?
Bears fans out there that are sitting dormant, waiting to reignite, reattach. Majority of Bears fans, well, I'd say 95% just walked away, haven't reattached.
From the game, completely?
Yeah, they might watch the game a little bit here and there, but they have no passion for it because their team's the Bears. So the red and black dormant army is big. It's very passionate, and you have to be. to be a Bears fan. We won premierships in 1921 and 1922. But I played the Bears for 11 years. Why is Bears important to me? Because it took the young man from Wollongara and made me who I am. And on that journey, my mum and dad both died. So when I was 23 and 25, and the Bears filled that void. They came in, and it was very powerful for me that the Bears put their arms around me, and they kept building more, overcoming that adversity. So that's why I owe them so much. That's why it's important to me.
So you're passionate about it. What was down to their expulsion from the game? I know they merged with Manly for a while, which by the sounds of it would have been a marriage made in hell, considering the rivalry.
It's be like marrying your ex-wife. You just don't do it. You can't do it. I
was wondering where that analogy was going to go. It would be like marrying your insert word here.
What actually happened, and I retired straight away. So I retired at 28. I wouldn't play on that offers from 4 other clubs, but I decided no. I was a one-club man.
So they were expelled from the competition and you just called it?
End of 99, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I was 28.
At 28?
So I walked away. I thought I was going to play till I was 35. I had planned it out, Jimmy. I was actually going to play there to get 300 games. So I was 31. I wanted to go and play where you were from.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to England for 2 years, and then I would have come back and played in bush footy for 1 more year. Then I would have come back to Norse, and I would have been involved in the club. That was going to be my life.
Yeah.
But when they went down in 99, I said that'll do. I didn't want to play on.
You didn't want to go to England? You didn't want to...
Well, no, I got involved in small business, and I had a period where I lost my way, and I had the shits with the game and life, and I thought when we went up to Gosford and we built that stadium, and we were promised with the end of the Super League war by moving out of the Sydney Basin to go to Gosford that we'd be protected and we'd be safe.
Like a Central Coast team.
And we came to the Central Coast Bears. Well, we got lied to. And I couldn't accept that we got lied to, double-crossed. We put ourselves in harm's way, but we did that in good faith, and harm found us. And we got kicked out of the comp. The merger with Manly was should never happen, but it only happened because we were already extinguished. Manly saw the opportunity to merge with us to get an $8 million grant, and that was the condition if you merge like Illawarra did with St George, West's Magpies with Balmain, there was an $8 million pot to make the merger work, a sweetener.
Yeah.
Well, that sweetener was Manly goes, look, we'll make this merger happen because you're already dead. We'll merge with you, and we'll get $8 million. But the devil's in the detail. The constitutional document for the merged entities gave both parties 50-50 rights. So all of a sudden the reborn Bears had the same voting rights as Manly. We weren't little brother, we were equal brother. And it couldn't work. They both hate both fan groups hated each other. So they actively campaigned against each other. Anyway, it dissolved, and that entry spot that Manly had, which they then turned it into the merger, went back to Manly, and we went down.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I could never recall it being a Manly Bears. It was always Manly, right?
Yeah, it was always going to be Manly. Yeah. So it was the Northern Eagles.
Yes, the Northern Eagles.
The Eagles. So but I walked away from all that, and so I missed a lot of that because I was in Queensland trying to run a restaurant and I bought a pub.
So you just completely went, I'm done.
Done. Walked away. So now...
Oh, that's a huge decision for a...
And I'll tell you, 6 months into it, I knew I'd made the wrong choice. But it was too late. It was too late.
You couldn't come back?
Couldn't come back because
Why?
Because I was so indebted and so embedded into business, I had to stay there and fight. Because I basically went down the wrong path with the wrong people and I was left carrying the can. So I had to fight my way back out of that hole. I couldn't do both.
Well,
and I couldn't walk away and I couldn't bankrupt myself.
You couldn't? What? Why not?
I just couldn't. Billy Moore can't do that.
That's personal. Is that pride talking?
Yeah. There's certain non-negotiables, and that was non-negotiable. So it cost me marriage as well, but I was not going to fold the cards. I was not going to allow myself to go bankrupt.
Did you set yourself up as a company, and that could have gone bankrupt, and Billy Moore, the individual, could have continued and gone down the path of professional sports person?
the liabilities, Billy Moore underwrote everything. Everything was in my name.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to be a restaurateur. Guess what I am now? I'm a restaurateur. Remember I told you about Billy Moore wants to learn? I learn every day. So I jumped in a deep end and I shouldn't have, but I did. There were sharks in the water. Anyway, I learned to eat the shark, but it took a long, painful time to do it. So that's something that no one probably knows about. So that's why Billy Moore vanished and I walked away, and 6 months into it, Jimmy, I wanted back. I wanted back, but I couldn't come back because I just couldn't. So I watched this unfold. I watched the Bears sink and I watched this disintegrate, and now I'm seeing the opportunity. And now I'm on the board. I've been there for 3 years with one purpose alone. And you can gather from this interview, Billy Moore's very purpose-driven, and those purposes are honourable, but they will be satisfied, and the Bears will be back. We will come back. And it means so much to not only me, but to all Bears fans. And I think it means so much to everyone in the game, because no one hates the Bears. And the fact that we have been there for 25 years, battling away, and the fact right now we lead the New South Wales Cup. We're the best non-NRL side in Australia. We're leading the New South Wales Cup, equal first. And we feed to the Storm, but we get a couple of players too. But often we'll play against the clubs involved in the New South Wales Cup. They might have all 18 players professional. We've got 3 or 4. So it's great to see what they're doing, the Bears at that level, but we want to go back to the show. And I want to be part of that, take them back for all the reasons I've alluded to in this interview.
Look, I'll play devil's advocate. One thing you could say is there's too many Sydney teams.
Correct.
Look, we honour tradition, but we need to think about the future. The game is now a business, whether we like it or not. Like from my own experience playing, well, firstly, my old junior club, that is now a housing estate. The stadium that I made my St. Helens debut for, my Great Britain debut at, is now a housing estate. There's so many memories there. People, ashes scattered in that stadium at Nosey Road in St. Helens. But it was time to move on. And it's sad, and I go back there and don't recognise it, but it was for the greater good of the club that they had to move. Now, putting that thought process, or applying that same logic rather, to the Bears, is it just maybe time for people to accept them and move on? And I'm not saying that is the way, but that could be an argument. And like I say, there is an oversaturated market in Sydney.
If we wanted to come back as the North Sydney Bears, domicile the North Sydney Oval, yes, we'd fail. Yes, it can't happen. We know that. We've taken the North Sydney, the geographical location, out of the name.
Yeah.
So we will be a relocation club. We're going to go, and there's obviously been comments around Perth. So we would like to partner up with Perth, but it'll be a relocation. We'll do what the AFL did in the sense of South Melbourne become the Sydney Swans.
Yeah.
Fitzroy Lions become the Brisbane Lions. We would love the opportunity to go to Perth and to marry up with Western Australia's passion for sport and rugby league. We'll be domiciled, live, stay, play in Perth. We'll take what we take with us across the Nulla Ball will be our history, our logo, our brand, our colours, and we'd have the opportunity to play a couple of games at North Sydney Oval. But we'll be coming out of Perth, and we'll come back. And when we come to the East Coast, we'll have a couple of games at North Sydney Oval, like I said. But when all of a sudden the Western Bears play Cronulla at Shark Park, well, not only will you have the Shark fans, you'll have 7,000 Bears fans turn up as well. But the power and the money and the opportunity and the growth will come out of the West.
Yeah.
Because of the very reason you just said, it is a saturated market. I like to call myself a pragmatic traditionalist. I'm all about tradition. But
yeah, it's important. It's so important.
But you've got to evolve.
Yeah.
Otherwise, life will evolve you. So you're better off trying to control the evolution.
Because I think if you go to, say, Magic Round and you go, just have a look, see how many North Sydney Bears jerseys you see. And then once you see them, they're everywhere and you're like, geez, can't stop seeing this. So they're clear that there's a passion for the club, and the club is still alive, and there's still an edge to support them. Like, do you honestly feel that the fans from yesteryear would come out in droves to support their team when they play in Sydney if they were to be brought back into the competition?
Without a doubt. There's Bears fans everywhere. What I'll say is when whatever the entity is called, something Bears, plays Manly, if it's at North Sydney Oval, we'd sell it out. You probably could go to the Sydney Football Stadium. It'll be the biggest news story in Australia that week. There'll be nothing bigger. Nothing will match it. It'll be huge. I think people can sense it, but when it happens, the marrying up of two histories, Western Australia and North, two histories, but the one future of the Bears coming out of the West. It's going to be exciting. It'll be big, and I think people very quickly will realise the red and black army that's been laying there dormant hasn't died. It's just been percolating, simmering away. It's ready to explode.
Hibernating,
as Bears do.
There you go. Out of hibernation.
Our focus will be pathways, though.
Yeah. Okay.
When you grow, and this is the argument people will throw out about growing the game, you cause dilution and you dilute the player market. Of course you do. It's a fact of life. As you grow, you will cause dilution. The key for rugby league is you got to fill that pipeline, fill that pathway as quickly as you can, and we can do that because we have obviously great pathways already now. We have a game that you played in England or in Europe where there is rugby leagues played there. There's some great players that have come across, and I can see a much more intertwined link over the next couple of decades to foster the game on both sides of the globe. There's a thing called rugby union, and rugby league needs to get clever at getting the players between 12 and 18, cherry pick out the ones who can take their skill set from union to league. Not all can do it, but some probably could. And the other thing that rugby has got is the Polynesians. They are perfectly matched physiologically. The game is set up to marry up with their skill sets that they've got. So rugby league can grow. Yes, there will be a bit of dilution, but when you look at what's happened the last 18 months with Redcliffe Dolphins, we haven't seen any issues near score blowouts. This year's comp is as close as you get. And look at the bottom of the table. You got South Sydney at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
That's not a bad squad.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the demographics of Perth, I think if you put resources there and pathways and treat it seriously, you'll see a pipeline that will produce or consistently produce NRL players within a time frame of 5 to 10 years. You just need exposure to the sport. So I'm a outlier in terms of my pathway into rugby league. It didn't exist where I grew up in the city of Liverpool. My dad nudged me towards it because he was from a place called Maryport in Cumbria, but it was completely foreign to me. But I can remember being at school going, I reckon if that kid or that lad was exposed to rugby league, he'd love it and he'd go really well. But you just, those skills that you learn and that desire, that passion, that Billy Moore that says, I'm going to play for Queensland when he's 9 years old. If there's an exposure level in Perth, if it's on a pedestal in Perth around this could be, a way of life for young boys and young girls, it could happen. Undoubtedly, you just need that pathway system in. Just with that 18th team, are the Perth Bears a possibility?
Well, it all depends on Papua New Guinea and the situation there. So I think there'll be 20 sides inside a decade, maybe even quicker than a decade. And
Can the Bears afford to wait that long?
We can, but we want to go as soon as we can. But it'll be in the hands of the ARL Commission and they will guide this situation based on the way they see the growth pattern. But obviously, the Papua New Guinea NRL side, it's a beast that no one's ever come across because it's government funded. It's a geopolitical situation which is above my pay grade. So you sit there and watch and go, wow, it sounds like a movie and sounds like a dream, but it is going to happen, and we are talking a phenomenal amount of money, and we're talking about peoples who love league beyond the Billy Moore passion. I talked about Chris Close. Well, the Papua New Guineans are the next level up. So they'll love the game, and they've got issues in law and order and other social issues in that country, and rugby league might be the platform that can help improve that education, which I think is a great thing. So let's watch this space. But they're the next cab off the rank, where they're waving a hand saying, we're ready to go, we can help out here if need be, whenever we need. For your listeners, between the ages of 4 and 18, there's 2,700 players in Perth play rugby league.
Yeah, wow.
So there's green shoots.
Yeah.
It's not like when the Storm went to Melbourne, where there was zip. It was a barren wasteland, and they're growing it, right? Perth has domiciled over there a very healthy rugby league competition, and there's competitions into the north in the mining areas.
Oh, right,
a lot of expats, a lot of Pommies, a lot of South Africans. Obviously, rugby union's there, so we're in a coexisting relationship with them. But obviously, the AFL rules there, but as you alluded to, not all body shapes can play AFL.
Well, exposure's a big thing. So again, I'll speak to people from Ireland, parts of England, Scotland that don't have rugby league where they live. It's all soccer or rugby union. They move to Sydney. NRL is the dominant sport. Those people get their heads turned. Oh, it's a bit funny. I recognise this game, but I don't. Because again, rugby league isn't popular in anywhere. Like they don't know what it is. But now, I know people that have become genuine fans of the sport based off exposure. Yep. So it just becomes an exposure issue.
And exposure to what we've got right now is the greatest entertainment product in the marketplace. It entertains.
It's the world's best kept secret rugby league.
Isn't it?
This is why I wanted to go to America, why I support it, because I know the product speaks for itself. And again, there's Canadians, Americans come over, South Africans to Sydney or Brisbane, and they're like, how good is this? Why isn't this in my country? Where's this been all my life?
Well, I've watched rugby league for 40 years. And Jimmy, this is the key. Rugby league's been poorly administered, and its growth patterns have worked on a lot of hidden agendas. Selfish groups and
there's
people.
No interest like self-interest, right?
Yeah, but people haven't really wanted to worry about growing the game because they're worried about their own little place in it. What's currently happened is there's this absolute perfect merger between rugby league now being at the best entertainment value I think I've ever seen. It's eye-catching, it's startling, you can't stop watching it. And I commentate, and I go to games thinking, I hope it's going to be a good game. I walk away going, wow, what a contest. Last week, a couple of weeks ago, the Dolphins-Raiders game. It was non-stop thrill. And there was 8 players missing, 8 stars.
Yeah,
it didn't matter. We've got that. The product is at its best. We've actually now got an administrator, who not only has the vision, probably beyond any other visionary I've seen in Australian sport, especially in rugby league speak, but he's also got the capacity to make the factions come together or to put the combinations together that makes it work. He brings the opportunity and the product and vision all together. We've never had that. Rugby league's growth, I think, in the next half a decade is going to be stunning.
I think you're right. I think it's within the foreseeable future that we'll go to 20 teams. And after speaking to you, I hope...
And then you've got what happened in America. I think the Vegas thing, I can just see, remember last year when it was announced, I had a lot of people laugh, go, that's stupid. No one's laughing anymore.
No.
I've already booked my tickets to go. I didn't go last year or this year. I'm going next year. I'll take a tour group. And look, I just know that...
It was incredible.
Yeah, so you were there. So it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think under Valenti's, we will get into the US market. The Boston Bears we've actually linked up there. So we're trying to get our footprint there as well. You're going to see a lot of NRL clubs, I think, link up with clubs over there. And I do think Valides has a passion and understanding that it's really important we make sure the very healthy competition which is in the British Super League that you played, we need to make sure we show a bit of love there, because the product there is up against it a bit compared to what we've got here. And if we show a bit of love over that side of the globe, it'll take, I think, the game that you know so well to another level as well.
Well, I think where the European or English Super League struggles is the fact that now it's competing against the globe, and it's on the global sports stage. Like the global sports stage has come to England.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, we had football, soccer, rugby union, a little bit of rugby league, your tennis, golf, cricket, etc. So, but it was basically all British sports, and obviously with soccer, you've got the Premier League, Championship, and a couple of divisions that are still very popular. Now with the global vision of a lot of sports, like the NFL, they're going, we're going to go to you. And now in England, there are a lot of nailed-on NFL fans.
Yep.
Now, I'm like, what are you watching that for? Watch rugby league. But NFL have a smart strategy. They bring games to England. It works great for the television networks. The same with the basketball. Here in Australia. So American sports, although they're primarily played in the States, like there's no NFL teams. They have an NFL Europe, but the NFL is all purely based out of America. They're a global sport now. Same with the basketball. Ice hockey, probably not so much. Baseball, in some of the like Japan and Asian countries, their popularity is growing. They're making efforts to come to here, to Australia and to England. But baseball's probably a little bit different. That you need certain metrics of a field. But the two sports that do it well are basketball and NFL.
Yep.
And other sports have grown, cricket, different variations of the sport. So that's where England struggle, is the fact that their sporting stage is now a global one, and rugby league is so small. And that's why I like what we do here, or what we are attempting to do in terms of going to America, because we do need to think outside of Queensland, New South Wales, Melbourne, New Zealand, the north of England, and maybe Perth. So I think it's so important that we have a growth mindset and look after where we're from. That's why I do enjoy the idea of a relocation team, because it's looking after where we're from. We'll look after some of those traditionalists and bring in a new market as well. Yep,
that's exactly right. And it's one of those adages, either growing or you're shrinking. You can't stay in the hiatus. It doesn't happen. So the growth strategy is the future. And that's where I think for rugby league in Australia to assist in the British Super League, it'll be like, a bit of a sugar hit. But it's then, once you give it a little bit of a spark, it's then about being strategic and growing the game. But the platform, I think, is obviously the US. And I'd like to see a lot more effort. I could see another couple of clubs coming out of France.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Toulouse and Carcassonne. Those, maybe something in the north if they could. But that's obviously well before. That's well beyond my time. I'm obviously all about the Bears, and to all the fans who love the red and black and listen to this, we will be back sometime soon.
We look forward to that. One of the players that you played with at the Bears, a little bit of a hero of mine, David Fairleigh, came over to St Helens for only one season. I think his first game was against the Brisbane Broncos in the World Club Challenge.
Yep.
And blew me away. What was Daisy like to play with?
Star. So I played 211 games, the Bears. And I reckon 200 of those, I sat beside Gary Larson and Dave Fairleigh, my two back rowers. No, what an honour to play behind those two blokes. So Daisy was great. He was huge. He's just a big guy, big, gigantic. He was gigantic. He could do everything. He was a powerful runner, great ball player. He was quicker than you thought. Had a beautiful swerve. Great little short pass. He was a strong defender when called on. He was just a good guy. I said I got to Norse when I was 17 and a half. Daisy's 1 year older than me. So he'd already been around the club for a couple of years through the junior rep grades. So when I came in, we were in 21s together. Then we ended up that year winning the reserve grade grand final together. I don't think Daisy played first grade that year. But then the next year, I was 18, he was 19. We played together for the next 10 years. And then when the boat went down, the Bears sinking in the end of 99, I walked away. Dave went to Newcastle and had a ripping year. And he played him in front row. I remember when we were playing, when if someone got hurt, you had to push one of the back rowers up the front row. Daisy was not too keen. He goes, no, I don't play front row. I said, I'm not playing front row. We said, Gary Larson, get up there. You're playing front row. All right, I'll go do it. So it was an honour playing with him and Gary Larson, two superstars, two professionals. It's hard to be good in life. It's 10 times harder to stay good. And the decade I played with Daisy, I don't recall, and same with Gary, I don't recall them having bad games. Their bad game, by their standards, was most blokes' good game.
Yeah. Well, it was him and Peter Shields came at the same time for St Helens, and yeah, as a fan, just absolutely love watching them play. I think maybe got to meet them going into the kick around at first team training as a 15-year-old, just go in and get a little bit of exposure. But yeah, they were so good for St Helens, so good. Really enjoyed watching them.
I was actually proud of the way he finished his career because mine finished so suddenly. But he left Norse in 99. We all had a shit year because we went to Gosford. It didn't work, and we all moved. We all had to relocate. We all had to sell our houses or rent them and move to the Central Coast. You had no choice. Imagine trying to do that today, telling people. So we all relocated. I went to Copacabana. Great spot. Loved it. But the ground didn't get built because it was too wet. Didn't build it. So we were all living there and had to drive back to Sydney to play. It was a schmozzle.
Yeah. So that was when. What year was that where that was happening?
That was 99.
99, you got told you got to move to Central Coast. You're going to be playing out.
Yeah, so the end of 98, we all had to move up there. We got there. We go, the ground's not finished. Where are we going to play? They said, it'll get finished. Well, it never did. So we were training at Graham Park beside it, beside the ground that's there now. But, yeah, when we had to play games, we would drive back to Sydney to play at North Sydney Oval, and they tried to take us out to a core once, twice, played a game in Lang Park in Brisbane. It was an absolute disaster, and that's what put us in harm's way and harm found us. That's what normally happens in life, isn't it? But I look back and that period, because Daisy was from the Central Coast. Yeah, he was happy. He didn't care. I was proud of the way he finished, as I said. His last 2 years, he had a great year at under Warren Ryan at Newcastle, and then went over and played with you guys.
Yeah, he was special. You spoke there about a personal thing before, about finding a new Everest. What do you mean by that?
When you're a young kid, you have dreams, but you have one real honest, true dream, and that dream for me was to play rugby league at the highest level. And I find that a lot of people, once they reach those great heights that I've noticed in sport and business, they often come unstuck later on in life, because the reality is you can only have one Everest. Because that's your childhood dream. The key thing I think for people, and I've been able to get my head around it, is trying to find another one, another thing to aspire to, a dream to chase. And I'll be honest, and this is where people can lose their way, but yeah, it's not going to be as good as that dream, because that was a 9-year-old kid on the lounge room floor that said I was going to play for Origin in front of my parents. I can't replicate that, but you don't have to. You've just got to have your mindset, the endorphins working to find something else, to chase another dream. So what I want to do is, in 2.5 years' time, Billy Moore's hanging up his boots from more Billy Moore activities. I'll stay the restaurateur, but there'll be no more public speaking. There'll be no more Queenslander. There'll be no more TV or radio. What he wants to do, Billy Moore wants to go walk the earth. Without sounding like a wank, I want to actually go and see what else is out there. I want to put this book.
To travel.
Yeah, see the world. Jimmy, I've read this book for 40 years by the time I finish. And I've sucked the life out of it and enjoyed every moment of it. That's why you see me smile so much. I'm loving life. And the dial, the switch, that all takes part in that book. But that book's got to go on the shelf.
Yeah.
I need to pick out another book, or I need to read another story.
So, because it's not, I guess, going exploring isn't an Everest. Is there a challenge, perhaps, that could fill that void? And
Don't know.
you don't know? You're going to figure that out?
I'll stay Billy Moore, the restaurateur.
Yeah.
Because that's
but
that's the engine. And
if you're going to go travel, you'd need to have someone manage that. And you.
Yeah. So what I like to do, I've got a business partner. He's a Raiders man. What we've talked about doing is, he's been there 29 years and I've been there 13 in this restaurant. We both don't really need to be there at times. So he'd run it for 3 months and I'll go away and then I'll run it for 3 months. So when I'm on, as I said, I'm all in. The 3 months I'm here and I'm buying in. The 3 months when I'm away, you won't find me. When I'm gone, long gone. But I want to go and see what else is out there. I may not find anything, but I don't want to die going, geez, I should have went when my body was better, when my body was healthier, I was younger. So at 55, I want to take those next 10 years when I can walk Everest. I can walk, the Camino Way. I can go and do things without actually having to think too much about my body being able to do it. Because you and I both punished our bodies and we pay a price for that.
Yeah, you pay a tax for
I've
sure.
had one hip replaced, my other one I'll get done in a few months' time. But I've still got to do the Berlin Marathon and I've still got to do the Chicago Marathon.
Oh, because you've done 5 of the 7 majors, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've done New York, London, Tokyo. I did Boston last year. But unfortunately, my other hip's just gone. So I will get that done and then I'll do those next 2. And then there's no more running.
Sydney is actually on course to become the 8th major.
What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get out before that happens.
No, come on, mate. You've got to run the Sydney one.
Well, the other major that I've done was actually not a major. It's the Great Wall of China. So, So that's the one I've done that actually. So really, there's 6 majors and the Great Wall over here. So I did the Great Wall. Horrible. Most horrible thing I've done in my life. Took me 5 hours, 10 minutes.
What do you mean? Like, why was it?
Pain.
What's so difficult about that particular marathon?
Because in the middle of it, there's 8,500 steps up the Great Wall.
Oh, shit.
So, and that's between
8,500.
Between K4 and K8, you're going upstairs.
Oh, fuck.
Then at K32 to 36, you go up steps again. So imagine it.
That's brutal.
That is brutal. I didn't see any women. That shows you how tough women are. I was walking over guys on the stairs. They'd given up. And they'd actually got a handrail. And the only way I was able to do it, I had to pull myself up the handrail to get up these stairs on the Great Wall. So, yeah, that wasn't a very pleasant experience.
Would you do an ultra marathon?
Couldn't do it. No, I haven't got my head around that. To me, people might go, to do a marathon is ridiculous. But I got my head around it. It's not. I'm not afraid of it. I can do a marathon. It hurts like hell. I know that, but I can do it. But to me, to hear of you're going to swim 3.5k, ride 182 kilometres.
Oh, that's the Ironman. Yeah. An Ironman or an ultra.
But so the ultras. So you to go beyond 42 and do 100k. I just think I can't digest that. I can't comprehend it. So I can't. If I can't comprehend it, I can't do it.
Well, you just got to do a marathon again and then a little bit more. There you go.
Yeah.
Simple as that, my friend. Simple as that. I'm hoping to do the Sydney Marathon this year.
Okay.
I've done the half and I felt like if I was an animal, you would have put me down at the end of it. But I feel like I'm determined to run the Sydney Marathon this year.
Well, I think when James Graham says he's determined, then that carries a bit of weight. Look, Sydney deserves to be in the upper echelon, so that'll be the big seven. It'll be with them in. It's such a picturesque place. I've done the other great ones, and New York, there's 55,000 people who run it.
Yeah,
there's a
cool,
million.
isn't it?
There's a million on the course celebrating with you.
Yeah.
In England, you love London. It was just after the stabbings on and there was 1.5 million.
Wow.
And what got me, I actually walked for the first time in my life, certain parts of it, because I didn't do enough training. And on the flight over, we got up into business class, and I enjoyed too much champagne and enjoyed the good life. So I had one day off the drink, and I did the run. But I walked this one part, and you got your bib on with your name and what country you're from. And the Poms, you guys are so friendly, and they're trying to inspire you. And they were having the beers and on a Sunday, late morning, beautiful day. They're having a good time, and they're trying to inspire the runner. And I remember going, there's people, come on, Billy, you can do it, laddie. Just start running, lad. And I feel like saying, get stuffed, mate. I'm embarrassed that I'm walking. And the last thing I want to do is someone to encourage me. So what I was doing, I couldn't handle it because everyone was so nice about it. I would run to the tunnel because they weren't allowed to be in the tunnels. I'd walk in the tunnel and wallow in my own mediocrity, and then I'd start running again on the other side.
Mate, there is something about that. I was never one for people cheering you on. Come on.
Not when you know you're buckled.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't realise you'd done as much travelling as what you had, because when you first said about travelling, I was going to say maybe you'd get some parts of the world and be like, Queenslander, what was that on about? This like, get to the north of England, you'd be like, this is beautiful. It's so picturesque.
The north of England?
Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe
I'm sure
there's some beautiful parts.
I'd love to go to Scotland. I was fortunate enough, I had the opportunity, I played in the 1995 World Cup, and obviously we were domiciled in Leeds, went down to London, went to Wales, and then I went to Ireland, and wow, loved it. But didn't get to go to Scotland. So
yeah, there's some beautiful parts in the north of England. I'm being serious there actually really is. It's very different to Australia, a lot of history, not as beach oriented.
Blackpool would be pretty nice, wouldn't it?
You know what? Blackpool is a great night out.
Is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's
fantastic.
the beach like?
Look, different. Not better, not worse, just different. Billy, it's been great to chat. We've got 4 questions for each and every guest. The first one, the dream spine. So you're 1679.
You wouldn't believe it, they're all Queenslanders.
No, really?
Cameron Smith has to be a 9. I don't think there's been a player like him. Obviously, he set records which will never be beaten. And his greatest attribute was he used to negotiate with the referee.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
7's the best player I play with, Alan Langer. For a guy that when you looked at him, his pass was a bit shitty. He wasn't fast. His tackling style was terrible. His kicks were a bit ordinary. Shitty little kicking style, but he made it work. The 6 is the icebreaker, the one who took us to the promised land, Wally Lewis. You can't have any spine without the king in it. And my 1, I'm torn, but I'm going to go Billy Slater because I think he redefined the play. The unlucky one, and he's probably, I'm going to be asking a little bit of a favour here, Jimmy. He comes in at number 14. The 14th is Darren Lockyer. The next immortal. Why? Because he mastered the 1 and the 6. He was the best player in those 2 positions in the world at different stages of his career. And when you think about it, one's a whole runner and one's a whole creator.
Yeah.
He mastered both. But he gets 14. He's on the bench.
Unlucky. Well, that's a fantastic spine. Slater, Lewis, Langer, Smith, and a 14 of Darren Lockyer. Not bad. If football didn't exist, what do you think you would have done?
I was going to go to Queensland University and study physiotherapy. That I had got accepted into doing that at Queensland Uni, and then rugby league appeared. So basically what happened was instead of going to the uni in Brisbane and becoming a physio, I became a rugby league player. I think I won.
Yeah. Mate, I was going to say, you sounded a bit down. Yeah. No.
The other thing I possibly would have happened, I know, I told you about going and walking the earth. I would have done that at 18.
Travelled.
Yeah. I just would have left Australia. I would have went and seen the world. What would have happened, I don't know. I would have loved, actually, if you could somewhere, with your connections to a crystal ball and find out where I would have ended up. But it could have been anywhere. But I would have went with the same passion that Billy Morley lives his life, same thirst for enjoyment, having a good time. And the other thing I've got is the thirst to become better, to learn. I don't know where we would have ended up, though.
I love how you've kept that attitude. That you've not been fixed in your ways, that you're loving to learn. I think that's speaking to people like that's key to longevity.
Yeah, happy longevity.
Yeah, willingness to learn, and it opens up. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here, and I've very shallow knowledge of the topic, but I think if you learn new skills or new information and you can apply that knowledge, it actually creates new pathways with cells formed in the brain. I'm stuffing that up, and anyone that's listening to this from a medical background, not that I think anybody from a medical background would listen to this show, correct me if I'm wrong. The most interesting person you've met along the way?
That's a great question. I'm having trouble trying to think about that. Again, I'll have to ask a little bit of leeway. I've come up with two.
Okay.
I met Bob Hawke.
Oh, did you?
And he was a real character because my dad admired him, loved him. And my dad was a very quiet man. He never saw me play footy at a professional level, wouldn't leave the little town. So he had this strange role in my life, but I admired him from afar. And when I met Bob Hawke, I thought about being there with Dad, meeting him, and very intelligent, but very good fun. Bob Hawke, probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met, really. But you just went, you actually meet my dad's expectations of what I thought my dad would have had. And the other one, actually, I've talked about him during this program, is Arthur Beetson. The immortal, the first Indigenous captain of Australian side. But you wouldn't meet a nicer man, a more powerful man, a more respectful man, a man that could walk amongst giants and then walk with the little people. And you'd just see people that you knew life, and you'd see when Arthur walked in the room, he had this special reverence about him. And it's a shame he went too young because there was so much to love about what Arthur Beetson brought to the game and brought to life and brought to the balance of our community, with obviously the forefront being an Indigenous captain for the first time in the Australian side. He was the icebreaker in that realm. Think about where that's gone now.
Yeah.
And this is the first guy. He won the second and third or the fourth. He was the first guy that ever had that honour. And to have it bestowed on you, you would have to have been something special, yeah?
I like hearing stories about him, and it's people who I respect, like yourself. And when you guys put him on a pedestal, you think like, wow, yeah. Just on Bob Hawke, like, I think there's only Australia that could have their Prime Minister down a pint of beer at the cricket on TV every day and get away with it. You could never imagine Keir Starmer or a Tony Blair or a John Major in England, or a Trump or a Biden or Obama going.
And we all, there's no one went, oh, that's disgraceful. We've all gone, how good's that? That is the Australian way.
That is the Australian way. You said about your dad, how he wouldn't leave the town. Isn't it funny how you now like to travel so much?
Yeah, I think it's probably the reason why.
That sort of stuff fascinates me about the attitude or behaviour of a parent, and how that how that affects the attitude or behaviour of their children. So, when you see like some people have parents that make like maybe bad decisions with alcohol, and that rubs off on them, but some of them go the other way.
Yes.
And go like, I will never drink.
Yep.
And you, oh, right, okay, I understand that. But for you, your father is like, I'm not leaving this town, not even to watch his son play. Like, wow, like, but then you go, oh, I'm just going to go everywhere. But there'd be some people that would be like, oh, no, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, one tap, this is enough for me. Fascinating.
It's amazing where you draw your life's influences.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason for it, and sometimes there is.
Yeah, or sometimes you go the complete opposite way where most people would expect you to go, oh, well, yeah.
The apple hasn't fallen far from the tree scenario sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, he's just like his dad.
Yeah.
He hates leaving, yeah.
Well, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Fair play. Last question. A sliding doors moment that you look back and think about.
When I was 15, I went to a camp, a rugby league camp in Armidale University. I call it my Armidale moment. At this camp were all the best 15, 16, 17-year-old players for Australia and New Zealand in rugby league. So Australia and New Zealand schoolboys were there. Representative age groups for state at those 15, 16, 17s. And probably the odd regional player. I hadn't played anything at that stage, but I got a scholarship to go to this camp for a week. And it was my sliding doors moment because I actually got to see the best of the best. I got to see what I had to become if I was going to be what I wanted to be. I wanted to be them. They had the contracts. I wanted it. Now, this is the key. I wasn't embarrassed by how good they were. I wasn't angry that they were better than me. I was envious. I was hungry. I was excited because I actually got to see perfection.
Well, something you've spoken about at length is that you're willing to learn.
A little bit.
So you go into that camp not with that jealousy. It's like, I'm going to approach this as a learning and growing opportunity.
And then that manifests because I'm watching what you do. I'm watching what are you doing, how did you just do it, and why. So what did you just do? Okay, how did you just do that skill? And then the real kicker there is the why. Why did you just do what you did? Because you spent your whole life perfecting it. So the real smart thing is, and this is the smart thing about wanting to learn, if I can get you to tell me why you've done it, I can speed up my learning process. I don't have to go through all those years of learning that you did. I can, in an instant, take it from you, put it in the Billy Moore machine, become bigger, stronger, faster, smarter. So that is the learning process. So at the end of this camp, the head coach was Wayne Bennett. He gave everybody a generic training program. So I took this program. It was everyone's, had the exact same thing, but to me it was mine. I went back to my little town and virtually I started training every day. As a 15-year-old, didn't make it. 16-year-old, didn't make it. 17-year-old, that is the period I told you about where I went all the way through to the Australian final in 10 weeks from nothing, boom, 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 played in that final and got the contract. It took 3 years, but the sliding door moment was here in the Armidale moment.
Yeah, that's why I like to speak about those sliding doors because you don't know what happened. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe if it wasn't for that camp, you're not sat here today.
There's no way I'd be sitting here today without that camp.
Do you still have that training booklet that Wayne gave you?
No, I didn't. What was amazing, and this is the other thing about human psyche, when I went back to Wallangarra, the little town, there's about 10 of us, 10 guys about the same age, a year up, year below. It was their training program too. I gave them, I said, guys, this is what I've got. I have the Bible. I have something. And we all trained together. After a couple of months, 10 become 8. 8 become 6. 6 become 4. The middle of winter was cold and dark. One was rainy. All of a sudden there was...
I thought it doesn't rain in Queensland.
Well, when we're so close to the border, it blows over. It doesn't rain in Queensland, it just blows over. And the smell of it. So all of a sudden, the 10 become 1. And that's what happened. But I learnt then it's hard to be good. It's 10 times harder to stay good because you just got to keep going. You got to keep doing the 1%ers. That's what you'd have been good at. The 1%. You got to keep doing them. time after time after time. And that's what's hard when you know you just got to keep doing them.
Interesting as well how you weren't that top of the tree kid. I think you were. I've looked back at my own life and the people I've been with when I was on my journey as a child, and you speak to so many people about how the top kids don't make it, and even like with my own children now, you think, not that if they make it in sport or academia or whatever, but like it's not necessarily about the people that are best at ages 6 to 15, 16, because they're ahead. So they're not chasing something. Maybe the smart ones are chasing the next level, but some people are just, I'm the best 15-year-old. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, but there's others that go, I'm going to grab that knowledge and then I'm going to go above and beyond, and that drive.
Yeah. It's a paradox, but it can actually be a poison chalice to be really good too young.
Yes.
Because you don't actually learn to work out the why. If you're a natural, you just got it right. But if you have to claw your way, fight your way to be good, you got to do the process. You got to think more about it, and then you get to tweak it and shape it, and that gives you more resilience. Because at some stage, you will find someone better than you.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do then? If you haven't got the skill set on how to adapt to that, that's when the house of cards come out. And sometimes, unfortunately, they don't have the mental skills to go, oh, wait on, I'm not as good as I thought I was going to be, or someone's actually better than me.
Never experienced it before.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Billy, we'll wrap that up, mate. That has been a fascinating insight into your life. I never knew that you left the Bears at that age.
The Bears left me.
And then you had, I guess, I don't know how. I'm trying to just think about how to describe that action.
Basically, I divorced myself from the world I knew. And
I don't know if it should be praised or criticised. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I genuinely don't. Because on one hand, you've got this career you've worked so hard for, but then the other hand, you've got these values of like, well, you've taken this away from me.
I suppose the best way to sum it up for me is 6 months later, I regretted it. So it wasn't the right decision. It was a foolish decision, without a doubt.
Would you have listened to anyone at that, like sort of? Well, I hate asking this because people ask, but if you could go back and tell yourself something, what would you say? But would that?
Because the club fell apart completely. What I realised, and I talk about people these days, the most important thing you can do is have good mentors around you. And a good mentor is someone that often says, no, you're wrong. Not always, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So a shoulder to cry on, but sometimes you need someone to put a bit of a situation in front of you. It may not be palatable, may not, it might hurt, might be hard, might be painful truths.
Yeah, having difficult.
So what actually happened with me is I divorced myself from the group, fragmented, and I had no mentors for the first time in my life. That's why I tell people in business now, the learns I've had in my journey is make sure you constantly surround yourself with people you can trust, respect, but they'll often give you painful truths.
Yeah, people who aren't afraid to tell you that. I reckon there's a difference between that mentor and friendship, because friends, it's difficult to have because there's, you want to go for a beer with them and they'll be like, fuck it, but mentors, it's a different relationship. But some fascinating insight there, mate, and obviously great to hear what Queensland means to you. It's helped paint a picture in my mind of state of origin and that little brother mentality and how that was for you, and how I probably didn't even realise that Queensland removed themselves from or fought for independence from New South Wales as well. So
they had a meeting I'm reading about it because it's Queensland Day today.
Is it?
6th of June.
National holiday incoming.
Well, I'm trying to get a state holiday. Seriously.
I believe you. Yeah, I believe you.
I'm trying to get because I've got a small business. What I want to do is I don't want
You guys want to take a bite?
Yeah. So no. We'll just finish this off. Go on.
Okay. So what I want to do, I'm going to campaign local, state, and federal politicians in Queensland to give us a public holiday on the 6th of June to obviously acknowledge the fact that we broke away in 1859 from New South Wales. Now, I've got a small business and I can't afford to, with my own business and any other small business, labour us with extra costs. So we need another public holiday, which means you're going to have to pay penalty rates for wages, hospo.
Yeah.
So I want to take one of the existing public holidays we've got over the Easter long weekend. There's four in a row. In Queensland, I don't know if it's here, but in Queensland, they whacked on 5 years ago, Saturday in that period, they made it a public holiday.
Oh, yeah. So
what happens is we run fast in the sense we turn over a lot of trade, but no one makes any money because of the penalty rates. So what I'm going to say is let's take that public holiday from that Saturday, move it to create another long weekend, which everyone loves. 6th of June. It's always going to be around Origin time. Perfect timing. But back here, all small business people go, they'll be afraid of another public holiday. But I say, no, there's going to be no more. It's going to move one.
Yeah.
So back here in this Easter block, where over those 4 days we run and we turn over money but don't make any, all of a sudden that Saturday we'll make a shitload of money because our best days in the restaurant in Hospo is Mother's Day and Father's Day because they're celebrated, people are out.
not public holidays.
No penalty rates. So
Brilliant.
It's digestible from all angles. And any politician who listens to this, if it does get this make hair, if you're in Queensland, local, state or federal, and you don't grant us a public holiday on Queensland Day, look out.
Look out. Well, mate, we spoke about medical professionals listening. They probably don't. We're not that, and politicians, if they're listening, then the country's in a bad spot. So, Billy Moore, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us on the Buy Round.
Absolute pleasure to be there, mate.